Under the elbow.
This past week, I spent time door-knocking in my constituency, and I met a senior who had a very clear view of this government's budget. His name was Rick Mercer, and he assures me he is the original Rick Mercer. And this Rick Mercer also had something to rant about. I asked him what he would like me to ask the government on his behalf, and he told me, tell them to stop spending money they don't have. So, on behalf of Mr. Mercer, I ask the Minister of Finance, what do you have to say to him and all other Albertans who are justifiably upset with this budget and your lack of any effort to find any sort of savings anywhere in this government?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and to Mr. Mercer through our member over there. You know, we have found savings, Mr. Speaker. In this year, 2017 budget, $750 million were called out of the budget, and we are not going to spend those monies again, Mr. Speaker. I asked for discretionary spending back from all of the departments. I reduced the salaries of agencies, boards, and commissions executives. I froze salaries of government employees that are management and non-union. And, Mr. Speaker, we're looking for agreements, practical agreements with our Labour partners.
For supplemental.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this budget is incredibly short on details, and the details we do have are based on some pretty optimistic assumptions. Given that no less an authority than noted economist Trevor Tome said the Alberta Party shadow budget was far more credible than this government's own plan to balance, my question again to the Minister of Finance. Why should we believe you, and what happens if you're wrong?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
So, Mr. Speaker, you know, there's some additional validators I'd like to just bring up for a second, Mr. Speaker. The Scotiabank, for instance, says the deficit elimination detail in Alberta's efforts to slow its net financial debt accumulated are both encouraging, Mr. Speaker. On the capital side, Trina Herdman from the Calgary Board of Education says we are grateful for this funding to create these new learning spaces. And additionally, on the operation programs, Scott Nye of BioWare says the budget levels a playing field for us, Mr. Speaker. There are many validators here.
Thank you. Second supplemental.
Well, Mr. Speaker, look, while I sincerely hope the Kinder Morgan pipeline is built, there is absolutely no question that it is at risk, just like every single one of the assumptions this government has made on its plan to balance. Given that Enbridge Line 3 is not a sure thing, given that oil prices are nowhere near guaranteed to meet your estimates, given that corporate and personal taxes are not likely to grow 40%, and given this budget relies on you actually sticking to your budget plans, unlike you have done through every budget so far, that is a lot of if. To the Minister of Finance, have you completed a detailed analysis of what happens if any one, or heaven forbid all,
Thank you, Honourable Member. Deputy Premier.
The member opposite keeps hoping that Alberta will fail. On this side of the House, we are using the results that have proven to be effective. The Minister of Energy has toured Line 3. It is well under construction. She's right that the approvals are all in line for things going south. And going west, they're also in line, Mr. Speaker. We're going to use the best evidence we have to make the best decisions. The evidence all shows that Alberta wins 1,000% of the time on Kinder Morgan. We're going to win 1,000% of the time on getting that line built. And that's why it's in our budget, Mr. Speaker. Because on this side of the House, we use evidence and we bet for Alberta. And you can bet we're going to get that pipeline built.